Senseless.
Her death seemed such a senseless waste of life.
A senseless crime.
He had been beaten senseless.
Sense organ.
Sense organ.
Sensibility.
Sensibility.
Her religious sensibilities.
Avoid using words that might offend someone's racial or moral sensibilities.
The sensibility of the artist.
Sensible.
Sensible.
She seems very sensible. Sensible advice.
It's sensible to keep a note of your passport number.
Moving house seemed like the sensible thing to do.
Eat a sensible diet and exercise daily.
An old woman in sensible shoes and a neat skirt.
A sensible increase in temperature.
He was very sensible of the difficult situation she was in.
Sensitive.
Sensitive.
A sensitive and intelligent young man.
It's made me much more sensitive to the needs of the disabled.
A very sensitive child. Laura's sensitive about her weight.
Throughout her career, she remained very sensitive to criticism.
Wetlands are environmentally sensitive areas.
A baby's sensitive skin. Older people tend to be very sensitive to cold.
Increasing numbers of people are sensitive to cow's milk.
Abortion is a very sensitive issue.
Sensitive matters such as national security.
Highly sensitive information.
A highly sensitive electronic camera.
Light-sensitive photographic paper.
A very sensitive performance.
It is an issue which needs to be handled sensitively.
Sensitivity.
Sensitivity. His comments show a lack of sensitivity.
Interviewing victims of crime must be done with sensitivity.
A teacher with great sensitivity.
She has always shown a sensitivity to audience needs and tastes.
It's a matter of great political sensitivity.
Food sensitivity.
Many children have a sensitivity to cow's milk.
Racial sensitivities.
The sensitivity of the detector can be increased. The market's price sensitivity.
Sensitize.
Sensitize.
Volunteers need to be sensitized to the cultural differences they will meet in African countries.
Many hospital workers have become sensitized to the latex in gloves.
Sensitized photographic paper.
Sensor.
Sensor. Sensory.
Sensory.
Sensory stimuli such as music.
Sensory deprivation.
Sensual.
Sensual.
The sensual pleasure of good food.
The faint smile on his sensual mouth.
A sensual woman.
Sensualist.
Sensualist.
Sensuous.
Sensuous.
The sensuous feeling of silk on her skin.
Sensuous music.
Full sensuous lips.
A beautiful and sensuous young woman.
Scent.
Sentence.
Sentence.
His voice dropped at the end of the sentence.
It's difficult to sum it up in one sentence.
In a few short sentences, Quinn explained what he had done. She received an 8-year prison sentence.
He has just begun a life sentence for murder.
Sanchez was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
Sentence adverb.
Sentence adverb.
Sententious.
Sententious.
Sententious remarks.
Sentient.
Sentient.
Man is a sentient being.
Sentient.
Sentiment.
Sentiment.
Similar sentiments were expressed by many politicians.
He was more in touch with public sentiment than many of his critics.
The anti-immigrant sentiments expressed by some Americans. After all, it's her decision. My sentiments exactly. There's no place for sentiment in business.
Sentimental.
Sentimental.
She said a sentimental goodbye.
People can be very sentimental about animals.
He wasn't the sort of person who kept things for sentimental reasons.
A sentimental journey to the place of his birth.
The rings that were stolen were of great sentimental value.
A sentimental story set in Russia.
Sentimentalist.
Sentimentalist.
Sentimentality.
Sentimentality.
Sentimentalize.
Sentimentalize.
Novels that sentimentalize the past.
Sentinel.
Sentinel.
Sentry.
Sentry.
Sentry box.
Sentry box.
Sepal.
Sepal. Separable.
Separable.
Physical health is not always easily separable from mental health.
Separate.
Separate. Use separate knives for raw and cooked meat.
My wife and I have separate bank accounts.
That's a separate issue.
He was attacked on 2 separate occasions. He tries to keep his professional life completely separate from his private life.
The gym and the sauna are in separate buildings.
Keep the fish separate from the other food.
They did arrive together, but I think they left separately.
The lighthouse is separated from the land by a wide channel.
This will keep your dressing from separating.
At this point, the satellite separates from its launcher.
Separate the students into 4 groups.
First, separate the eggs. Jill and John separated a year ago.
I decided to separate from my partner.
She finds it difficult to separate fact from fantasy.
Ed stepped in to separate the 2 dogs.
In the fog, they got separated from the group.
The capacity to think separates humans from animals.
3 points now separate the 2 teams.
This test should really separate the sheep from the goats.
We must separate out these different factors and examine each one. Many older people may prefer not to be separated out from the rest of the adult population.
Separated.
Separated.
We've been separated for 6 months. Separates.
Separates.
Separation.
Separation.
The separation of church and state.
The zone of separation between the warring factions.
The separation of families during wartime.
Their separation and later divorce.
Separatist.
Separatist.
Separator.
Separator.
Sepia.
Sepia.
Sepsis.
Sepsis.
September.
September.
I haven't heard from him since last September.
My birthday's in September.
The meeting will be on September the 6th. When's the concert? On the 6th of September.
They arrive September 6th.
Septet.
Septet.
Septic.
Septic.
A cut that went septic.
Septicemia.
Septicemia.
Septic tank.
Septic tank.
Septuagenarian.
Septuagenarian.
Sepulchral.
Sepulchral.
A sepulchral voice.
In the sepulchral gloom of the church.
Sepulchre.
Sepulchre.
Sequel.
Sequel.
Star Wars and its sequels.
She's writing a sequel to her first novel.
Sequence.
Sequence.
The questions should be asked in a logical sequence.
Be careful to perform the actions in the correct sequence.
Number them in sequence. 1, 2, 3, etc.
The chapters may be studied out of sequence.
He's had a sequence of business failures. The sequence of events leading up to the war.
The dream sequence in the film.
Sequencing.
Sequencing.
Sequential.
Sequential.
Sequester.
Sequester.
The jury was sequestered during the trial.
Sequestered.
Sequestered.
Sequestrate.
Sequestrate.
Sequin.
Sequin.
Sequoia.
Sequoia.
Sierra.
Sierra.
Seraph.
Seraph.
Seraphic.
Seraphic.
Serenade.
Serenade.
Serendipity.
Serendipity.
Serene.
Serene.
The child's face was serene and beautiful.
A serene mountain lake.
Surf.
Surf.
Serfdom.
Serfdom.
Surge.
Surge.
Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Sergeant Major.
Sergeant Major.
Cereal.
Cereal.
A television serial. A 6-part serial.
A serial rapist.
Keep the questions in the same serial order.
Cheap serial publications.
Serialize.
Serialize.
His book was serialized in the New Yorker.
Serialize.
Serial monogamy.
Serial monogamy.
Serial number.
Serial number.
Each computer has a serial number on it.
Series.
Series.
The series of events that led to the outbreak of war.
The police are investigating a series of attacks in the area.
There's been a whole series of accidents on this road.
This autumn, the BBC will be showing a series of French films.
Staff will hold a series of meetings over the next few weeks.
A summer lecture series.
A new comedy series.
A series of articles on community care.
A science fiction series. A series of laws against discrimination.
The area is linked by a series of canals.
Serif.
Serif.
Serious.
Serious.
The serious problem of unemployment.
Luckily, the damage was not serious.
Serious crimes have increased dramatically.
A serious accident on the freeway.
Oil spills pose a serious threat to marine life.
The president was in serious trouble.
This is a very serious matter.
The serious business of earning a living.
Be quiet, Jim. This is serious.
His voice suddenly became more serious.
A serious article.
Is she serious about giving up her job?
She sounded dead serious.
Mary Frank, you can't be serious.
I'll give your suggestions serious consideration. A serious student.
You look serious. What's wrong?
It's serious. They've been seeing each other for 6 months.
Are you really serious about her?
He's become a serious golfer since he retired.
Chris is a serious photographer.
He's got a serious car.
In industry, you can earn serious money.
Seriously. Seriously.
Was she seriously hurt?
I'm seriously worried about Ben. Something was seriously wrong.
It's time we talked seriously about our relationship.
Seriously, though, I think Toby likes you.
As a teacher, it's important that the kids take you seriously.
It's only a joke. Don't take it seriously.
The job's yours. Seriously?
Seriousness.
Seriousness.
In all seriousness, if Tom does resign, a lot of other people will start leaving too.
Playing with Richie was the highlight of my musical career, said Sonny in all seriousness.
Sermon.
Sermon.
The vicar gave a sermon on charity.
Sermonize.
Sermonize.
Serotonin.
Serotonin.
Serpent.
Serpent.
Serpentine. Serpentine.
The serpentine course of the river.
A serpentine plot. Serrano. Serrano.
Serrated.
Serrated.
Use a knife with a serrated edge.
Serried.
Serried.
The serried ranks of reporters waiting outside.
Serum.
Serum.
Servant.
Servant.
Many young girls became domestic servants.
Are we the servants of computers?
Serve.
Serve.
The waiter was serving another table.
Sprinkle with cheese and serve immediately.
Serve the soup with crusty bread. Breakfast is served until 9 a.m.
Meals can be served to you in your room.
Tea cakes should be served hot with butter.
There was only one girl serving customers.
The sofa had to serve as a bed.
The reform served as a model for the rest of the communist world.
A large cardboard box will serve the purpose.
Her talent for organization should serve her well.
Research projects that serve the needs of industry.
Lord Herbert served as ambassador to France.
He returned to Greece to serve in the army.
Anne serves on various local committees. The women who served their country in the war.
Her death should serve as a warning to other young people.
A single example serves to illustrate what I mean.
Paris is served by 2 airports.
He served an 18-month sentence for theft.
Did you know that less is serving time?
She kicked me. Serve you right, teasing her like that.
Dylan's almost served out his sentence.
The senator's illness means he may not serve out his term.
Serve out the rice, will you?
What are you serving up tonight?
Server.
Server.
The server's down again.
All data is stored on a central file server.
Salad servers.
Server farm.
Server farm.
Server farm.
Server side.
Server side.
Servery.
Servery.
Service.
Service.
The health service. The postal service.
The police service.
The prison service.
Workers in the emergency services are for...
There has been a decline in public services in recent years.
Workers in the emergency services are forbidden from striking. The essential services.
A wide range of financial services are available. Data Post offers a delivery service to over 160 countries.
Our aim is to provide the best service at the lowest price. The supply of goods and services.
The service was terrible, and so was the food.
At our bank, we insist on high standards of customer service.
Service is included in your bill.
Brian retired after 20 years of service to the company.
A long service award.
A career in public service.
He received an award for services to sport.
Lydia obtained the services of a qualified nurse.
Why don't you offer your services as a tennis coach?
Her attacker was sentenced to 120 hours community service.
These trains have been in service for many years.
The escalator is out of service. Steel tools give good service for years.
The service was held in the chapel.
A memorial service for the disaster victims.
Maybe you should join the services.
Her son is in the services. My secretary is at your service.
Can I be of any service?
He did her a service by telling her the truth.
I'm getting the bus home. My car's in for a service. It's your service. How far is it to the next services?
The 8:15 service to Cambridge.
The service of a summons.
Payment for services rendered.
I'm having the car serviced next week.
Schools that service local communities.
Serviceable.
Serviceable.
Some of these old tools are still serviceable.
Service area.
Service area.
Service charge.
Service charge.
There's a service charge for advance tickets. Service club.
Service club.
Service industry.
Service industry.
Serviceman.
Serviceman.
Service station.
Service station.
Servicewoman.
Servicewoman.
Servicing.
Servicing.
The new model is quieter, needs less servicing, and is more fuel efficient.
Serviette.
Serviette.
Servile.
Servile.
A servile attitude.
Serving.
Serving.
This should make enough for 4 servings.
Servitude.
Servitude.
Servo.
Servo-assisted brakes.
Sesame.
Sesame.
Session.
Session.
A training session for teachers about computers.
Question and answer sessions.
A session of group therapy.
The first televised session of Parliament.
The court is now in session.
Board members met in closed session.
Set.
Set.
She set the tray down on a table next to his bed.
Mark filled the pan and set it on the stove.
The workmen set the box down carefully on the floor.
Remove the mushrooms and set them aside.
Gates should be hung on sturdy posts set well into the ground.
An alarm button set into the wall beside the door.
The novel is set in France.
All this romance is set against a backdrop of rural Irish life.
These casualty totals have to be set against the continuing growth in traffic.
This debate should be set in an international context.
Art and literature flourished, and this set the pattern for the whole of Europe.
The Prime Minister's fierce speech set the tone for the rest of the conference.
It is important that parents set an example.
The outcome of the case will set a legal precedent.
His photographs set the standard for landscapes. Freud's views on sexuality set the agenda for much of the century.
A study by military experts was immediately set in motion.
The chief executive will set in train the process of finding a successor.
Protesters set fire to 2 buses.
Her last remark has set me thinking.
The wind set the trees rustling.
The government has still not set a date for the election.
International companies set the price of oil.
High standards of hygiene set by the Department of Health.
They set to work to paint the outside of the building.
He's about to set to work on a second book.
The boys were set to work collecting firewood.
Rockard set himself to reform public sector industry.
Did you set the alarm?
I set the oven to come on at 12.
Usually the heating is set on low.
How long does it take for the glue to set?
It's best to set realistic goals that you can achieve. He set himself the task of learning Japanese.
Ellen has completely set her heart on that house.
He set his sights on crossing the Pacific by balloon.
The Kenyan runner set a new Olympic record in the 3,000 meters.
They decided to set a trap for him by leaving him in charge.
All the other hostages were finally set free.
I set him right on a few points of procedure.
His mouth set into a rather grim line.
Mr. Biggs has set us a 2,000-word essay.
The head teacher sets the questions for the English exam.
In those days, books had to be set by hand.
A team of volunteers set about the task with determination.
How do senior managers set about making these decisions?
They set about him with their fists.
The bitter civil war set brother against brother.
She set herself against going to university.
Man's ability to reason sets him apart from other animals.
Traditionally, these days were set apart for prayer and fasting.
Try to set aside some time each day for exercise.
A room that had been set aside for visitors.
Both sides agreed to set aside the question of independence.
The judge set aside the verdict of the lower court.
Environmental experts said the move would set back further research.
Illness had set me back a couple of weeks.
This jacket set me back over £1,000. I wanted to set my feelings down on paper.
Clear guidelines have been set down for teachers.
The driver set her down at the station.
He set forth an idealistic view of society.
They were about to set forth on a voyage into the unknown.
Winter seems to be setting in early this year.
Further economic decline set in during the 1930s.
I'll set off early to avoid the traffic.
Jerry and I set off on foot for the beach.
News that the claims might be true set off widespread panic.
Hong Kong's stock market fell, setting off a global financial crisis. Smoke from a cigarette will not normally set off a smoke alarm.
Any movement could have set off the bomb. The blue sundress set off her long blonde hair.
Don't mention what happened. You'll only set her off again.
Some expenses can be set off against tax.
The farmer threatened to set his dogs on us.
A 35-year-old man was set on by 4 youths last night.
If I refuse, he'll set the police on to me.
Kate set out for the house on the other side of the bay.
The band are setting out on a European tour in March.
Salesmen who deliberately set out to defraud customers.
They set out with the aim of becoming the #1 team in the league.
He set out the reasons for his decision in his report.
The market traders began setting out their displays.
My nephew is just setting out on a career in journalism.
If we all set to, we'll finish the job in half an hour.
They want to set up their own import-export business.
New regulations for setting up political parties.
John decided to set up as a graphic designer.
Now Betterware plans to set up shop elsewhere in Europe.
I'll set up an appointment for you.
There was a lot of work involved in setting up the festival.
The next band was already setting up on the other stage.
Can someone set the overhead projector up?
They've set up roadblocks around the city.
Cox claimed that the police had tried to set him up.
After he qualified as a doctor, his mother set him up in a practice of his own.
Selling her share of the company has set her up for life. A good breakfast will set you up for the day.
Politicians who set themselves up as moral authorities.
If he won the fight, it would set him up for a title shot.
Anyone with public duties sets themselves up for attack. How did you meet Nick? A friend set us up. Many parents try to help their children set up home.
The party guests were setting up a steady din.
A set of tools.
We face a new set of problems.
The older generation have a different set of values.
A chess set.
A colour television set.
Cruz met Kidman on the set of Days of Thunder.
Nadal won the second set 6-4.
A favourite meeting place of the Smart set.
Val got in with a wild set at college.
From the set of her shoulders, it was clear that Sue was exhausted.
The hard set of his face.
Sasha performed a 3-hour set.
The set, XY, has 2 members.
Adam's in the top set for maths.
Onion sets. A medieval village set high on a hill. A big house set back from the road.
A small town of white buildings set against a background of hills.
Pink petals set against dark green foliage.
We were paid a set amount each week.
The evening meal is served at a set time.
Small children like a set routine.
Are you all set for the trip?
I was just set to go when the phone rang. Get set for a night of excitement.
On your marks, get set, go.
Nina's set on going to the party.
The government's dead set against the plan.
People had very set ideas about how to bring up children.
Mark was 65 and rather set in his ways.
She's got her heart set on going to France this summer.
Don has his sights set on a career in law.
The weather is set to change.
This issue is set to cause some embarrassment. A gold bracelet set with rubies.
The hotel does a very good set menu.
He stared at her, his face set.
Kate's face was set in a grim expression.
Damn you, he said through set teeth.